The last page now. Stephen Gardner says, as one of the few number of fans from the UK, exclamation mark, can you talk about what you like about us, exclamation mark, and maybe what you don't really like, maybe our puns about the weather, would definitely make me want to watch the show live rather than record it for a change. Stephen Gardner, let me tell you something. I am an American patriot. I love this country with all of my heart, and right behind it is Great Britain. I'm half British. My mom is British. What I love about the UK, I can sum up in one word. Britain. And when we say Britain, I almost said England. But Englishness, Britishness certainly, because you got to throw the Scots in there, and then forget it. Britain, Great Britain. There's one word that Great Britain represents to me, and that word is civilization. Britain is civilization, Western civilization, as we understand it, which now is in the acme with the United States. Western civilization is Great Britain. There is no West without Britain. Britain is the West. Britain invented the West. The British Empire is the invention, the culmination of Western values. Everything that makes the West work. Personal freedom, personal responsibility, hard work, boldness. Just think of the boldness. This little island. What's that saying? British soldiers, Victorian soldiers, was a saying popular during the Victorian age. They were given a small island for their birth and the entire world for their grave. This little tiny island, without manpower, without resources, with only an attitude. That's the thing about Britain. Just the attitude. They had the attitude that they could go out and do it. And there's an awful lot that people have said about British imperialism in terms of racism and colonialism. Yeah, okay, racism existed all throughout the world. All throughout the world. The British went around the world and they brought civilization and they brought the rule of law and fundamental decency. And you can make exceptions all day. I get it. I'm not going to listen to your exceptions, because if you look at India, for example, they talk about, the racist, the white racism in India. Absolutely true. But the actual racism in India is the racism of the caste system in India. The British went to India and, believe it or not, really dramatically reduced the total racism in India with the Raj. Because the caste system and the Brahmins and the untouchables and sati and all this other stuff, Britain is civilization. Britain is science. Britain is medicine. Britain is law. In the Napoleonic Code, the French Code, you are guilty until you can prove yourself innocent. The English Code of Law and Justice is that you are innocent until proven guilty, and if there was nothing else that Britain did, that would be enough. Right? Britain, the United Kingdom, all of that ethic is all the good in the world has come out of that. Honestly, all the good in the world. Exactly. Ian just mentioned John Locke, Adam Smith, the greatest man, I believe, the greatest man who ever lived is Winston Churchill. And I'm convinced of it more and more every day as I'm now deep into the second, almost finished with the second part, with the first part. I've read the first part and the third part and the second part of the three-part trilogy called The Last Lion. I read the middle first, and then I read the end, and now I'm reading the beginning. It's just how it came to me. But now I'm reading it through in order. And Britain is everything that is good in the world, and always has been. And if you ask me what I don't like about Britain, it's got nothing to do with the weather. It's got nothing to do with anything. I want to go to Britain and help save Britain the way that we need to, the way that so many Americans, half of the country, Stephen, here in the United States, sees what's happening to this country, more than half really, sees what's happening to this country, hates it, and wants to fight it. And England and Great Britain went through the exact same thing that we did right after World War II, and they didn't fight it. And we look over now at Great Britain and we see the greatest people in the history of the world, our philosophical and really our genetic forefathers. The foundation of America is 100% Britain, 100%. And we look at Britain, and what we see in Britain today is we see a people that no longer believe in themselves. That's plainly clear to us from across the pond here in America. And we look at it and we fear it. We fear it greatly. We fear horribly what we see happening to the British people because we suspect it's happening to us, that we're past our prime, that we're past our peak, that we're on a downward slope, that it's all over. And we are doing our best in the conservative movement in America to fight this. And we think you should fight it too. And we think if somebody came to Britain and spoke the truth, and there are a couple of British parliamentarians that actually do this, Lord Monckton is one of them, that you would recognize it. But Britain has been beaten down by these socialists. They bought it. They bought socialism. Britain bought socialism after World War I, and they bought socialism especially after World War II. And the short form is all of that American aid in the Marshall Plan that went into Germany after Germany was defeated to build factories for Volkswagen and Audi and BMW and Mercedes. That money that went to Great Britain was dispersed out through the socialist government of Great Britain and given to people in terms of free eyeglasses and free health care, and all of those billions of dollars were just basically pissed away on buying votes, and they never rebuilt their infrastructure the way that Germany and Japan did. It's a catastrophe. Great Britain was finished the day between the wars. I don't remember the exact date, but when the ruling elite of Britain, when the debating society of Oxford University had a debate, and the resolution was that we shall not, the members of this house, meaning Oxford University, shall not fight for king and country under any circumstances. When that vote passed in the late 20s, that was it. When the ruling class of Britain basically says, we don't believe in our own civilization enough to fight for it under any circumstances, that was it. That was the day. Get it back, Stephen. Get it back. Fight these people. It's easy to fight them. It's easy to beat them. They are dependent on you to just hold your head down and watch your country be destroyed in front of your eyes. Don't let them do it. You'd be amazed how weak these people are. There's the opposition, the socialists, the multiculturalists, these snotty, shrill, this BBC accent. Now there's a difference between the Britain of before and the Britain of today, because the Britain of before was nothing but courage, nothing but common men and courage and an attitude and a belief system. But the ruin of civilization sounds like the BBC. This very arrogant, this very, very cultured, this very superior, well, of course, the implicit racism in America and the brutality, and this sophistry, this intellectual masturbation, it's the soul of the BBC. It's the end of civilization. Fight those people like there's no tomorrow.